Hello there, everyone. Captain Bravo back with another deck profile. Sorry it has been a while. I haven't really had many new decks to talk about, but I've got some fun new stuff here today. To make up for my lack of videos for a while, I'm going to be making a few today. So to start off, I got a deck from the Pokémon TCG. It's personally one of my favorites, in my opinion, one of the strongest. The Fairy deck. My deck personally is based off the Resilient Life theme deck, which is a Fairy Psychic deck. Although you really don't need most of the Psychic cards from that deck, just keep the Scoliopeed. I'll tell you about a couple more to put in afterwards. So to start off, the Fairy type, they are strong against the Dragon type in the TCG, and weak to the Metal type. And most of them have a resistance to the Dark type. So start off, the whole point of the Fairy deck is to control your field, to get out the energy you need, put it where you need it, and be able to move it as you need, and move around Pokemon as you need. So, one of the main Pokemon you have for deck searching is your Xerneas, coming from the trial deck. Its Geomancy ability allows you to search for 2 Fairy Energy and attach them to 2 Pokemon on your bench. That's 1 Fairy Energy. It also has the Rainbow Spear attack, which you do have to discard 1 energy to use, and it's a 2 Fairy, 1 colorless move. However, it does 100 damage, and if you're in a pinch, it does work well. The other 2 main cards from the trial deck you're going to play for Fairies are first, Slurpuff. It has the Sweet Veil ability, which any Pokemon with Fairy Energy now cannot be affected by status conditions, and any pre-existing status conditions, for example, if your active Pokemon is poisoned or paralyzed or asleep or whatever, whenever you place Slurpuff on the bench, that status condition is removed, just like the Sparkling Robe Pokemon tool. The second main card from the deck you're going to play is Aromatisse. With its Fairy Transfer ability, you can take any Fairy Energy you want that's on the field and move it to any Pokemon you want. For example, let's say I have 1 attached to Slurpuff and I need to get it to Xerneas. Using the Fairy Transfer ability, I just move it as many times as I want before I attack. Now those 2 you don't really put in the field. You just put them on the bench because, Slurpuff, it's got the Draining Kiss, which will heal it 30 damage, but it only does 30 damage. And Aromatisse, although it can do 60 damage with its Fairy Wind attack, it costs 3 energy to use, so not as reliable, especially when it only has 90 HP. Now, a fun card you can use from the XY expansion for this deck, since it comes with some Jigglypuff, is the Wigglytuff card, this one. Its Gather Energy ability can let you search for basic energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, which is nice, not as powerful as Geomancy. But the main attack you want to use with this Wigglytuff is its Hocus Pocus. A 1 Fairy Energy, 2 colorless energy attack, does 60 damage, and the defending Pokemon hit with it cannot attack the next turn. So it's a stalemate beater, as I like to say. Now, in any deck, you want to grab a few EX. Not too much, because then you got great power, but your opponent can beat you faster, since with that 2 prize card rule. One of the coolest cards to use for this deck EX is Xerneas EX. This is the pack version. However, the tin version has the same attacks. 170 HP. Has the 1 attack is called Breakthrough. A 1 Fairy Energy, 2 colorless energy attack. Does 60 damage, which is nice. And you can choose a Pokemon on the bench and deal 30 damage to that. Its big boy attack is 2 Fairy Energy, 2 colorless, X-Blast. 140 damage it does. Although it cannot be used the next turn, you can still use Breakthrough. Now, the other one you want to use is Gardevoir EX from Primal Clash. This has 170 HP. Its 1 attack is the 1 Fairy Energy Life Leap. Does 20 damage, however you can increase that with certain cards like Muscle Band or using Weakness. Whatever damage that attack deals is also healed in HP to Gardevoir EX. And if you can get your hands on Mega Gardevoir, also from Primal Clash, its great ability is Brilliant Arrow. which does 30 damage for each fairy energy you have in the field. Now, for Psychics, I don't run many since this is a mostly fairy deck, and that's kind of what it should be. But you can run a few other cards to help supplement the power. One I like to use is Gallade EX. This is from Roaring Skies. Gallade EX has some great powers, still 170 like most EX. Gallade EX can use Swift Lunge, which is 1 psychic energy, 1 colorless. It does 30 damage, which seems a little weak. However, you force your opponent to switch one of their bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon, so that can get you out of a nasty jam. Also, for 3 psychic energy, you can use Piercing Prizes, which is a base power of 50, but does 20 more damage for each prize card you have left. So you can get a max of 170 and a minimum of 70. Now, of course, you can also run Mega Gallade. This guy is also from Roaring Skies. He has 220 HP, and it can use the 2 Psychic, 1 Colorless attack of Unwavering Blade, which does 110 damage, and for each Pokemon on your opponent's bench that already has damage counters on it, they can do 30 damage to that as well. Now, as cool as the Pokemon are, any deck also needs your supporter cards, item cards, and bases, your trainer cards. Now, the main trainer card you're going to play in this deck is what helps lend to the field control and flexibility. Fairy Garden, the stadium card. For any Pokemon that has a fairy energy attached to it, it can retreat for free. Now, usually a Pokemon has a retreat cost, which is energy you have to discard from the Pokemon to be able to put it back on the bench. Fairy Garden just says, well, forget that, I'm doing it for free. Which again can be combined with Aromatisse's ability to move around fairy energy. So let's say my Gallade EX has only psychic energy attached to it. I use Aromatisse to mix around the energy, put a fairy on there, move it back to the bench, and then just take that fairy energy, put it back where I need it to be. Now, as I said, field control is the thing you want to do. So you can use cards like Lysander, which makes your opponent switch one of their bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon, which can, again, help get out of a jam. Another thing you want to use is, of course, card drawing ability. So for cards, you can use like that. Tierno, Professor Sycamore. You can get cards on the field using cards like Bridget and Pokemon Fan Club. Now, the fun thing about Pokemon Fan Club is you can search for 2 EX if you want. It just says 2 basic Pokemon, reveal it, put it in your hand. Now, more things. Let's say you don't have Fairy Energy on the field or Fairy Garden. You can still get your Pokemon out of danger using a Switch card, which is not as necessary, but it can be used. Now, let's say your key Pokemon has been defeated. Keeping a Max Revive on hand can be quite useful, although not necessary since you have many beaters in this deck already. And for attacks that force you to discard energy like Rainbow Spear, or if you run into Team Flare Grunt cards and such, you can run a Fisherman to get that fairy energy back in your hand. Although your main card for getting that to your hand will be Professor's Letter, which you should run at least 2 of. 3 isn't okay, but 2 is usually a good balance since you need other cards in the deck. Now, for every deck, I suggest running at least 1 Pokemon Center Lady, which heals 60 damage and status conditions. Now, you need to get your certain cards on the field, like Slurpuff and Aromatisse. So, to do so, you have to run evolution cards like Evo Soda and Wally. Evo Soda allows you to search your deck for 1 Pokemon that evolves from a Pokemon on the field. Say, if I have Spritzee on the field, it allows me to search for Aromatisse. Wally takes that a step further, and you can do that to a Pokemon on the turn you put it down. Normally, you cannot evolve a Pokemon you just put down on the field. Wally lets you skirt past that. Now, as I mentioned before, your power of the deck really involves knowing what you're getting in your hand and on the field. So running a town map is very useful for that, since it allows you to flip up your prizes for the rest of the game, so you can choose what you put in your hand. That's about what I have for you today. Thanks for watching. You can always leave comments below of what kind of deck you want to see next. I do decks from Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, sometimes Force of Will, Buddy Fight, and Vanguard. Hope you're all having a great day. Merry Christmas, and a happy other holidays to all of you. And we have Bravo signing off.